Founded February 12, 1909, the NAACP is the nation's foremost, largest, and most widely recognized civil rights organization. Its more than 500,000 members and supporters throughout the United States and the world are the premier advocates for civil rights in their communities, leading grassroots campaigns for equal opportunity and conducting voter mobilization.
In 1908, a deadly race riot rocked the city of Springfield, the capital of Illinois and resting place of President Abraham Lincoln. Such eruptions of anti-black violence, particularly lynching, were horrifically commonplace. But the Springfield riot was the final tipping point that led to the creation of the NAACP. Appalled at this rampant violence, a group of white liberals that included Mary White Ovington and Oswald Garrison Villard, both the descendants of famous abolitionists William English Walling and Dr. Henry Moskowitz, issued a call for a meeting to discuss racial injustice. Some 60 people, 7 of whom were African American, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells Barnett, and Mary Church Terrell, signed the call, which was released on the centennial of Lincoln's birth.
Echoing the focus of Du Bois' Niagara movement for civil rights, which began in 1905, the NAACP sought the following: to secure for all people the rights guaranteed in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution, which promised an end to slavery, the equal protection of the law, and universal adult male suffrage, respectively. Accordingly, the NAACP mission was and is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of minority group citizens of the United States and eliminate race prejudice. The NAACP seeks to remove all barriers of racial discrimination through the democratic process.
On the morning of July 4, 1944, Primus E. King, an African-American duly registered to vote in Georgia, sought to cast a ballot at the Muskogee County Courthouse in Columbus in the Democratic Party's primary election. Shortly after entering the courthouse, King was roughly turned away by law officers who escorted him back out to the street. During this time, the Democratic Party monopolized political activity in Georgia, as in other southern states, and the parties primarily provided the only occasion in which a voter was offered a choice between candidates seeking office in the state and local government. For that very reason, blacks were denied participation in the primaries by the Georgia Democratic Party and its county affiliates.
Thomas Hensey Brewer Sr. was born on November 19, 1894 in Saco, Alabama. He was instrumental in the civil rights movement here in Columbus, Georgia, during the early to mid-20th century, before he was assassinated in 1956. He became a respected physician and one of Columbus's most prominent civil rights activists, succeeding in the desegregation of the Columbus Police Department. He is also one of the founders of the city's NAACP chapter and as a supporter of Primus King, among other advocacies. He was active in the Republican Party, serving as a delegate to the GOP National Convention in Philadelphia.
King's challenge to the white primary had been planned by a civil group of Columbus African-American civil rights activists, led by Dr. Thomas Brewer. By prearrangement, King, after his rejection, walked several blocks to the office of Oscar D. Smith Sr., a white attorney, who prepared a lawsuit against members of the Muskogee County Democratic Party Executive Committee, chaired by Joseph E. Chapman, for denying King his right as a citizen of the United States to vote. In September 1945, the arguments in King versus Chapman commenced in the federal district court in Macon. Smith and King's other principal lawyer, Harry S. Strozier of Macon, argued that their client's right to vote under the 14th, 15th, and 17th Amendments of the United States Constitution had been violated. They asked for $5,000 in damages for their plaintiff. On October 12, 1945, federal judge T. Hoyt Davis ruled in King's favor and awarded him $100 at 7% interest. Since it was clear that the defense attorneys would appeal the decision, because the United States Supreme Court had recently declared Texas white-only primary unconstitutional on the grounds that the Texas Democratic Party was part of the state government, the defense had argued that the Democratic Party in Georgia was a private entity.
On March 6, 1946, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, Louisiana, Judge Samuel H. Sibley, a Georgia native, denied the contention of the defense in King v. Chapman, arguing Georgia's election laws associated the state with the Democratic Party primary, and that the state therefore puts its power behind the rules of the party. Thurgood Marshall, the lawyer who later orchestrated the famed school desegregation case, Brown v. Board of Education, in 1954, served as amicus curiae for King before the appeals court.
The Muskogee County Democratic Party refused to let the case drop. Chapman's attorneys then requested that the U.S. Supreme Court review and overturn Sibley's decision. The High Court declined to hear the case on April 1, 1946. In March 1945, the state of Georgia had abolished the $3 poll tax, thereby removing the economic impediment to voting in the state. Primus King's almost 2-year-long struggle against the white primary, paid for by more than $10,000 raised by Brewer and others in the Columbus chapter of the National Association of Colored People, NAACP, now finally eliminated the legal barriers that had stood in the way of Black Georgians' right to cast ballots in the state and local elections. King was courageous in his confrontation with law officers on Independence Day, 1944, and brave in his determination to pursue the case despite threats made against his life.
Eventually, honors came to King from the political establishment that had once spurned him. In 1973, Mayor Bob Hydrick proclaimed June 28th as Primus E. King Day in Columbus. In 1977, the Democratic Executive Committee of Muskogee County paid King the $100 plus interest, $324.70 that they owed him. And in 2000, Governor Roy Barnes signed into law a bill naming a stretch of state road in Columbus as the Primus King Highway.
On March 6, 1946, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, Louisiana, Judge Samuel H. Sibley, a Georgia native, denied the contention of the defense in King v. Chapman, arguing Georgia's election laws associated the state with the Democratic Party primary, and that the state therefore puts its power behind the rules of the party. Thurgood Marshall, the lawyer who later orchestrated the famed school desegregation case, Brown v. Board of Education, in 1954, served as amicus curiae for King before the appeals court.
Dr. Thomas H. Brewer founded the Columbus branch NAACP in 1939 and served as its vice president from 1939 to 1956. Tonight, 82 years later, we are proud to carry on his legacy.
Good evening. It is an honor to lead the Columbus NAACP branch as we continue to promote social justice and fight for equality through civic advocacy initiatives. As its 23rd president, I am committed to improving the political, educational, social, and economic status of minorities and to eliminating racial prejudice through educating the public on the adverse effects of racism. Since its founding in 1909, the NAACP remains the largest and most actively engaged civil rights organization in the country. We are proud of our continued growth and sustainability despite seeming insurmountable challenges and opposition to our social justice agenda. The primary focus of the NAACP continues to be the protection and enhancement of the civil rights, equal justice, and fair treatment for all people. Our journey for justice and equality is still relevant today. We will continue to uphold the mission and vision of the association, and I look forward to all the wonderful work that we will accomplish together. In addition to your donation tonight, membership is the lifeblood of the association and the guiding force of the Columbus branch. We cannot achieve our mission without it. Your NAACP membership is more than a contribution. I invite you to please join the NAACP and become an active member. You will be joining the team that has been on the forefront of civil and human rights battles for more than 100 years. And as a volunteer organization, all of our advocacy initiatives are implemented by our members who generously donate their time. As our branch grows, we welcome progressive-minded individuals such as yourselves that are committed to achieving social justice in our city. Thank you for being with us this evening, and we appreciate your support. I'm Wayne Hales, President of the Columbus Branch NAACP.